They say if you don't, no, what do they say? If you fail to plan, then you've planned to fail. Well, I fully plan to be drunk by the end of this episode because this is the only way I'm going to get through this topic. So, happy Juneteenth. Come on into the chat. If you got something to drink, pull up a little glass or something as we sip and chat. But yeah, we got a lot to talk about. Welcome to the stream. This is Ichabod. I am your host, Be Good. And in case you're wondering, we got a few things to get into.
Why are the banks closed on Juneteenth? The new holiday they did a few years ago.
So if you know anything about what that is, you know we got a good conversation coming up. And I am not alone. I have a friend here to join me. But before we get there, I want to give a shout out to some folks. Thank you to everybody who has joined the Patreon. Look at all these beautiful people. Look at the growing list of folks who said, hey, I support this channel. I support what you're doing. Let's keep having these conversations. Let's keep building this little community here where we get a chance to affirm each other, to say, hey, if you thought you saw a kink in the armor of Bible God, you were not tripping. You're not alone. We are with you. We support you. What's up, David DeBow? What's up, Pragmatic Crystal? Yo, Gia in the house. Yeah. Come on into the chat and greet somebody in Reason's name. We got a lot to get into tonight, but how you guys feeling today? You said you listened to Durante's Juneteenth stream earlier. That's what's up. He said, holy cow. I must have missed it. I got to go back and check it out. But yeah, we got a good one tonight. This is Juneteenth with a twist, because we're going to begin talking about the actual holiday. And then we're going to kind of shift gears into what this channel is primarily about. This channel is primarily about deconstruction and deconversion. And I said to you guys before, you can even see in the thumbnail to this episode, hey, Eddie, what's happening? The thumbnail says, imagine, right? Imagine freeing the last Christian. So you can almost tell where we're going to be heading with that. So be thinking about that, even as we talk about the actual Juneteenth holiday. And so we gotta dive into that. But yeah, I'll give you guys a few more minutes to get in. Come on in and greet somebody in Reason's name. And like I said, pour you a little drink as we get ready to talk about it. I see my guest backstage is. I think my guest went to go grab a drink. I bet you. We'll see. Mr. Biscuit Speaks says, to God be the glory. Okay, we shall see. We'll see what kind of glory we can give to God tonight. What's up, my unique Monique? Good to see you. As soon as I said Crystal W was coming back, a lot of folks were like, yo, I can't wait to see her. She's such a great guest. And yes, her brightness will be joining me on the screen momentarily. Anybody out there, were you celebrating Juneteenth before it became a nationally recognized holiday in 2001? Or were you just happy that you got another day off of work? Mr. Biscuit Speaks says, I truly love your channel and the info you provide, though I disagree respectfully. Hey, it's all good. I appreciate the fact that you're here. And I'm always up for the dialogue. As a matter of fact, I said this on my Facebook page this week. So tomorrow begins the first day of summer. I'm going to be pulling back from social media during the summer as I work on some other things. But one of the things I will be doing is looking for people to join me, for Christians to join me on screen, not to debate necessarily, though we're going to disagree. Like you said, Mr. Biscuit, but just to have some conversations and see where the conversation goes, human to human. And so if you're interested in that, I would love to have you on. All right. That being the case, I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest onto the stage. Would you please help me welcome to Ichabod? Welcome back to Ichabod, Crystal W.
Hey,
What's going on?
what's up? Come
Chilla. Good to see you.
It's good to see you too, Brady. How's
I
it
was going
going?
to say, how's your summer going so far? But summer doesn't start till tomorrow. But either way, how's your
My
season?
summer already started. Like it's been 2, 3 weeks since school let out. You know what I'm saying? For the educators, it's summertime for us. Woot woot.
Okay. So what do you do in the summertime?
So in the summertime, what I have been doing for the last few years is summer camp. So still working like now that's when the time I choose to work directly with students and be like a teacher again, instead of being a strict, administrative person. And so I'll be like a 5th grade teacher or an interventionist. And I mean, and the pay is good, and you only got to do it for throughout June. And so that's usually I'm there being busy, like recreating a classroom, even though it's only going to be like 16 days. I'm like plants and decorations and everything. Because
you get your whole school year's worth of teaching in.
Yes.
In the summer
and the administrators always be making fun of me, like, Ms. W, why are you like setting it up like it's a real classroom? I'm like, because it is. And it is. Like, I want them to have everything.
That's
so this time I'm not doing that for the first time in a long time. So I'm focused on me, making up all those appointments and whatnot. You got to visit the dentist and all that kind of stuff. Therapist, do all this right now.
Okay, good stuff. Well, thank you for taking time out of your pre-summer schedule to join us on Ichabod. Were you celebrating Juneteenth before Biden made it a national holiday?
Yeah, because I live in a place that tends to celebrate it already. Okay. So I'm, where I'm from, no, not so much. But in Texas, yes, especially because the Galveston port was so instrumental to the slave trade. And so, yeah, and that's basically where the Juneteenth piece originated, right?
How far are you from Galveston?
About 45 minutes.
Oh, man, you're right down the road.
Yeah, we close to the beach.
Okay, so you couldn't escape Juneteenth.
Really couldn't. So yeah, I've been celebrating it, and part of that sometimes involves like going down to Galveston where stuff is happening, or things.
So I'll tell on myself, I didn't know anything about Juneteenth until it became a national holiday. So maybe it has to do with being from the North, or being so far removed, or just the horrible education system, or I don't know what it was. I'm going to put some of it on my Christianity because I had a very whitewashed Christianity. It was sort of like, don't pay too much attention to the troubles of this life, the trials of this life. Your spiritual problems have been solved. Why do you need to care about your earthly issues? So I wasn't checking on Black history so much. And so I'm sort of ashamed of my knowledge of Black history before deconversion. So there you have it.
I could see that. I had some whitewashed pieces too, but I think it was also a little bit of respectability politics that maybe my parents might have been playing into, like trying to get away from their lower class childhoods and breaking out of that. And I'm going to be the first to go to college, that kind of thing. And so when it's time to raise children, then that's what they want for their kids, to not have to endure any of the same things they did, either out the rural side with my mom or more in the urban side.
Okay. So I started off by playing a snippet of a clip. We're going to watch the full clip now. It's a real short clip, but it's very interesting. You may not be able to hear everything that's happening because the video we're about to watch takes place in a place of business. It's a mechanic shop.
Okay.
And so if you can't hear what's being said, I will rehearse it for you after it's done, but see if you can catch what's going on here.
I know, right?
Hold on, take it back.
Why are the banks closed tomorrow? Juneteenth. The new holiday they did a few years ago. Okie dokie then.
I know, right? Pull my fucking truck. Pull my truck around. Please. Pull my truck around. And give me my keys to my truck. I don't want this to done. Please go get my truck. Thank you.
Did you catch what just happened there?
Not quite,
Okay.
but I know that there was something where she was saying like, just go get my car, like I'm done here, basically.
Yeah. So
But,
I'll rehearse it and then I'll take it back so you can see more. So the guys at the counter are talking. There's a customer and an employee talking, and the guy says, "Why are the banks closed tomorrow?" And the guy behind the counter says, "Juneteenth." The other guy says, "What's Juneteenth?" He said, "It's some new holiday they came up with a couple of years ago." And the guy says, "Okie dokie then." And then the other woman, the white woman in the dealership or the mechanic shop, says, "I know, right?" And she just starts laughing. And the black woman who's sitting down is basically like, "The fuck? Like,
Mhm.
how y'all just going to shit on this holiday?" It's one thing if you don't know what it's about. It's another thing if, wait, some of y'all seem like y'all know, but your response to this guy, like, "Oh, they just created." Because granted, if you don't know what the holiday is and someone just tells you, "We're closing the banks because we created a new holiday a couple years ago," you might be like this guy. He's just okie dokie, like, okay, I get it. You can't fault him. He doesn't even know what it is. The other people who do know, at least they know it's a holiday that just, was newly minted officially. They're like, "I know, right?" They're just as like, "Why are we closing the banks?" as the guy who's just finding out about it.
Yeah.
So if you're like, she's overreacting, is she overreacting because she's thinking, okay, he doesn't know what it is. Y'all do know what it is, but you're just as like, "Why are we closing the banks?" as him. That was enough for her to say, "Give me my keys, give me my fucking truck. I'm getting out of here." So I'll play it back with that in mind.
Why are the banks closed tomorrow? Juneteenth. The new holiday they did a few years ago. Okie dokie then.
I know, right? Pull my fucking truck. Pull my truck around. Please. Pull my truck around. And give me my keys to my truck. I don't want this to done. Please go get my truck. Thank you.
Who?
Is it this one right here?
Yeah, no, it's a Berkeley Tahoe.
We said Juneteenth was the holiday tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not. Like,
You got mad about it.
here, he was like,
Yeah, that's why the banks were closed for Juneteenth.
I don't even know what is Juneteenth.
Exactly, nobody really knows, but I think it's something to do with reparations or something.
Yeah.
All right, Crystal, your thoughts.
Yeah, okay. So thanks for breaking all that down so I could have, like a little more awareness of what was going on.
Mhm.
I think she's fine with walking out. I'm not even going. No, you don't have to give your money to patronize anybody who's doing dumb shit. Point, period. For me, even though I know there's no obligation for us, for Black women to be the beast of burden and to teach white people and be the educators of I still probably would have said, this is what it's about. Like,
Okay.
just straighten everybody out and let it be awkward as fuck. Then say, matter of fact, right,
Okay.
get my fucking truck. So that would be me, because it's like I want them to steep in the knowledge of what they did instead of being like, "Oh, what did we want?"
Yeah, because you saw when she left, another guy came out and says, "Why is she taking the truck?" And the guy behind the counter says, oh, she got mad because, we said something about Juneteenth. And then the other one said, well, I don't even know what it is. But then she did show that she knew something like, what is it, like connected to reparations or something? And he says, yeah, something like that. But it kind of just goes to show you the lack of concern. Like, it's been 4 years. 4 years since it became a national holiday, and you still don't even know what the fuck it is. And on top of that, you're like, yeah, I know, right? Like, they just made this new holiday we have to respect. So you know what it's connected to, and you still have this flippant attitude towards it. So I don't know. In the chat, y'all tell me in the chat, what do you think? Do you think that the people at the mechanic shop, was there any racism involved there? Because people like to say that Black folk get overly and easily offended by things that aren't really racist. So I'm just curious in the chat, or if you're not watching this live, in the comments, racism or no? What do you think? Talk to us.
Ooh, okay. Now I have some more to say.
Okay.
I kind of want the people to say what they thinking first, but
Okay.
I just, now I have, yes, I can definitely answer that particular question. Like, oh, is this racist? Is it not? Like, they don't know what's happening.
And if you go the direction of this is racist, is it micro or macro?
I think this is micro.
Okay.
I mean, because it's one of those things where, to me, it's this part of privilege. Like, I don't have to look into it. I don't have to educate myself. It's just, I take the day off. And then later we can joke about it a little bit, like years down the road. I don't have to care. Why did she walk out? Actually, it doesn't even quite matter that she walked out, kind of a thing. Like they don't really care. So I think that part is where it's micro. I think when it becomes macro, there is a little more awareness, and it is like more targeted. Like, man, the holiday is about this, but I think it's whack because of that, right? Like when you have a little bit more clear idea what it is, and you have like these dumbass reasons or whatever for why you oppose it. That's what I.
Well, let me get you to respond to a question in the chat. Rod's World says, "Would I be racist if I didn't know about Cinco de Mayo?"
I think we all are. I think the point I was making is that, yeah, it is racist. So, yeah, like not knowing the stuff, like when we are all a shared nation, a shared community is, that's racist.
There's a certain amount of like unconcern for the holiday to have been around as long as it is. I'm talking about Cinco de Mayo now. For it to have been around as long as it's been around, and for you to say, I don't have to learn about it. Right now, we don't get off. It's not a federal holiday where you get off of work and all that for Cinco de Mayo. So maybe you could be excused for feeling like, is it really that important? But if someone says this is important enough that we're going to have you take off work to observe it for 4 years, and you still don't know what the fuck it is, that might trend towards racism.
Yeah, I agree, and it's like willful ignorance at that point.
Let me add on top of that, it's not just the willful ignorance. To me, it's the attitude of the people in the shop. The guy who didn't know what it even was says, okie dokie then, like, oh, I guess. The people who do have some inkling about what it is, even though they're wrong, they think it's attached to reparations or something, they're like, I know, right? So that's, to me, what makes it more problematic. It isn't the we didn't know or we don't know why we're getting off. It's the I know, right? I know what it's attached to, and I'm still like, why do I have to give a fuck about that?
Yes.
That's where the racism comes in for me.
Yes. Okay. And I see how you're emphasizing that part, and I understand why. Because they do have a little bit more awareness, like I just said, as I defined you know, whatever, that it's more racist to know more about it and be like, ugh, you know, than to just be like, mm-hmm. So the first guy is a little more like, and then everybody else is like, I know, you know, so they're kind of using his ignorance as an opening to be dismissive.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about that? Let me see what y'all are saying in the chat. Give me a second. Let me pull up something real quick that I think is important to see, because if you want to know what happened as a result of this getting posted, I don't know if anything actually happened as a result, but I do know, you know how people are. Let me see, where is it at? So, Crystal, your folk, they went and got online and they started adding to the reviews of this place.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. So this place that had, let me go back to the top, 4-star reviews, 4-star reviews, 4-star reviews. All of a sudden, they start getting 2-star, 1-star reviews left and right of people saying, don't go to this place. They're rude. They're racist. They're this, they're that. And so whatever their ratings were before, their ratings are going down now because, and this is only a fraction of the people who went online and start downrating this place. Yeah, they got dragged for sure.
I just want to shake my people's hand.
Let me see what some of y'all said here. Let me see. My Unique says it's not the not knowing, it's the flippant comment about reparations, because it's not even about reparations, right? But just the comment about that. Hey, Eddie says both. They don't know what it is, but they'll still comment on it. All right.
Right, like somebody Google it.
Are we in the age of Google?
We all have supercomputers in our pockets. Like, why just be all you know, like look it up real quick and then be like, oh, okay, y'all, it's this. Like,
oh, I just saw this. If I missed your comment, I'm sorry. There's a lot to pay attention to. One of the best ways to like have me make sure I see your comment is super chat it. Hey, Eddie says, also Cinco de Mayo is not an American celebration. How about that? It's people who've migrated. Well, I even hate using the term migrated, because when you think about who was in America before the Europeans got here, it's not necessarily like Mexicans had to migrate to America. You may be the descendant of somebody who fled to what we now call South America because of what the Europeans were doing here. So it's even weird to call those people migrants. But the idea that it's not an American celebration, I think a case can be made that Juneteenth is, I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, is more American than something like Cinco de Mayo. Y'all can fire me in the comments if you want. What you thinking, Crystal? Talk to me.
Okay. I think that it's, geez. I don't know that I'm on board with that it's one's more American than the other, because again, we're a mix. And then for indigenous people to be here and then European forces to come over and be like, no, get out. Yeah. We're calling this the US. So not so much that you crossed the border, but the border crossed you. So, so all of those people who would be indigenous or Mexicans, Northern Mexicans, are now find themselves in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona. Like, what even is that? And then there's this influx of Anglo-Americans, because they're giving like land grants and all this other stuff to get them to come down here, like from the north and the 13 colonies and all that, and come here. And then your manifest destiny, like, come down, right? So for those that were here, like, for Mexicans, I don't know if you want to call them Mexican Americans, even American kind of is a loaded term, because all of this landmass is American, North, Central, South, right? And so it's only United Statesians that really think they own the word Americans, right? And so for them, for there to be, not for them, for us to be celebrating this victory around the time of like the Civil War is like, okay, so we kicked out, like, or we overcame, or they overcame the French. I don't know how you want to consider it. We, us, them, they, but somewhere in those pronouns, however you're considering it, in the battle, the Mexican forces were victorious. So we're going to celebrate that. Now, a lot of people still don't know about Cinco de Mayo. They're like, Mexican Independence Day, it's their 4th of July. Like, they don't know, right? Like, they still say weird stuff. So I'm with Hey Eddie. I think I just saw something that just flashed across screen. I guess I might have missed it. But yeah, the Mexican victory over the French.
Yeah, same point that you were making.
Yeah.
If there are any Arrested Development fans in the house, then you know about the celebration before Cinco de Mayo on the 4th that they created in that in the series Arrested Development. But I'm gonna pass over that for now. For those who do not know, let me just play this short video real quick.
The story of Juneteenth starts on June 19th, 1865, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Act ended slavery in Confederate States. Major General Gordon Granger and Union soldiers delivered the news that slavery had ended to 250,000 people who were still enslaved in Texas.
That is bananas to me. That's crazy. 2.5 years later, 250,000. Is that right? 250,000 Africans still enslaved after the Civil Wars ended? Well, not after the Civil Wars ended, after the Emancipation Proclamation. That's wild. Yeah,
it is.
Black Americans celebrated. Freedom brought huge progress in the years after the war. Literacy rates jumped 70% in the subsequent 40 years, and 22 Black Americans were elected to federal government. But when Reconstruction ended in 1877, attempts to build communities were met with violent attempts to restore the power imbalance of the pre-civil rights years. Throughout the 1900s, Juneteenth celebrations continued, highlighting advancements within the family and community and honoring ancestors. In 2016, Opal Lee, an activist in Fort Worth, Texas, set out to make Juneteenth an official holiday by walking from her home in Texas to Washington, D.C. She reached Washington by walking 2.5 miles a day, representing the number of years it took for news of emancipation to reach Texas. In 2021, Lee's campaign was successful. President Biden signed legislation making Juneteenth a federal holiday. Today, Juneteenth is an opportunity to celebrate Black Americans.
So, Crystal, this goes to your point about Black women bearing the burden, not just of educating whites, but just of carrying the movement.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So,
yes.
Like, shout out to African American women all over the country, and you here on the platform now. But just thoughts about the holiday in and of itself, because what we're about to do is we're going to transition in a second to talk about the impact. Well, I'll save my intro, but thoughts just on the holiday itself.
Yeah, the holiday itself is, like you said, it's wild to me. It's basically like, okay, I'm a person and I have been owning other people. And now the president says it's illegal for me to now own these people, but who gonna check me, boo? So when do I have to let them know by, and how do I let them know? It seems like it's more up to me in my household, right? And then I'm going to be kind of probably pretty delicate about it instead of being like, yay, you're free. Because there's like, I don't know, like 15 people in your family and there's like whatever, 150 of them out there, you know? So yeah, do you want it, like, you gonna have to be a little sensitive on how you release it. So I could see why they'd be like, well, I have a proposition for you. In my generosity, I have decided to pay you the generous wage of 2 cents a day. You know, like I could see like that happening. And so they're now technically sharecropping and getting around the law and not enslaving anybody, but not necessarily telling them that they're free. See? And then also you have a very limited choice. Like, okay, you're free now. Where you gonna go? How you going? Who's gonna employ you? You can't read. You can't do. You gonna drive somewhere with what? You don't have a horse. You don't have anything. So again, in my generosity, I will employ you, and I'll even employ your kids. Give them a place to stay, like I've been doing. Make sure that you have a meal to eat every day, right? So it's like this coercion, like this nastiness of like trapping and manipulating people still.
So I made a post about a week and a half ago with all of the deportation that's happening now, with ICE going into everywhere that they can to find people to deport. And Republicans have said this. Republicans have said the reason why Donald Trump is deporting dishwashers and construction workers and all that is because he's mad that his deportation numbers are not matching Biden's and Obama's. He campaigned on, we're going to get the criminals out of here, the criminal illegals out of here. Realize, oh shit, there's not as many of them as I needed there to be to make my case. So then Stephen Miller says, Stephen Miller is the chief of staff at the White House. He says, hey, you know what? Just get them all. Anybody you can find, go to the 7-Elevens, go to wherever you can find, birthday party, get them all. And so that's what they've been doing. Matter of fact, even the ones who are here legally, we're going to revoke their legal status and get them out of here. So anyway, halfway through this process, amongst the outcry from the nation, it's not the riots in LA. Let me not even say riots. It's not the protests / riots in LA. It's the business owners, the farmers and hotels that say to Donald Trump, yo, we can't survive without the labor of these immigrants. That wakes Trump up to make him say, you know what, maybe we should do something different. And so he reversed course. Now he's since reversed course on his reverse course as of yesterday, but that's not the point. The point is, if the business owners in 2025 said we cannot survive without the cheap labor of immigrants, imagine what the business owners during the antebellum South, the period of slavery, imagine what the fuck they got away with in terms of enriching themselves and enriching the country by the taxes that they paid off of the free labor of Africans in this country. That should be in, like, Trump's reversal of, oh shit, we're destroying these businesses because the cheap labor is gone now, should tell you something about the injustice done to Africans in America and what's owed to them in reparations. Curious, your thoughts?
From what I remember, white slave owners, they got reparations. Exactly. They were compensated for no
the
longer
loss of their slaves.
Which is so fucking insane to me. Like, oh no, poor you. You've got to keep our economy going. So we're definitely going to make sure that you're taken care of. Like, I can't, like that. Yeah. So like you're saying, the imagining that, like, we don't know what we're going to do if we don't have these other humans producing what they were producing. Like, how do we make sure that we don't lose this land, this, this plantation, house, servants, all the wealth that this might have brought? Like, let's say you're in cotton and textiles, right? Like, well, you're in cotton and all the North people are in textiles, even though they say they don't have slaves. Hell. So everybody's, like, still benefiting economically from this system. Wow. So even the North is going to be kind of fucked, because where's your cotton coming from? Where's your tobacco coming from? Right? Yep. Like, so everybody's like, wait, wait a minute. Did we make the right choice? Because now they, we gotta wear. How long I gotta wear this one suit? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mr. Biscuit, thanks for the $2 super chat. Says Crystal is 100% right. 100 excuses to keep slaving. Hey, Eddie says, I find it interesting. None of Trump's properties have been raided by have been raided by ICE.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
No, I will say this one thing about the ICE raids that is a little story that I love, because they are raiding everywhere, including in the school district where I work. And they tried it. They tried it at a high school, buddy. And I'll use another name instead of the actual superintendent's name. I'll say like Dr. Jones, And the high school kids, they were like, nah, you can't come up in here. Dr. Jones said y'all can't get us. Like they knew that the superintendent of the district was on their side. And eventually those people had to leave. Like nobody, front office staff, any of the employees would have let them through. Like, no, you don't have this warrant. I don't understand what you're saying because this don't match the law. No. And so they had to go away empty-handed on that day. But I was so proud of the students themselves, as well as the superintendent, who had made it clear, you're protected here. You're safe. And they were like, we safe. It's already been said. Like,
wow.
So, yeah.
On that note, so here's how I want to begin the transition into talking about Christianity. Imagine you are one of those enslaved Africans in Galveston. The army has to come and tell you, or tell your owner, it's ridiculous, you've got to let these people go. You don't own these people. They're free. Emancipation Proclamation was 2.5 years ago. Civil War is over now. The North is like, you cannot hold these people. Imagine being one of those formerly enslaved, hearing that you're free, and hearing that you've been free for 2.5 years, but somebody just wouldn't let you go. How do you feel as the enslaved? And imagine you're an African in America at that time, and you hear that there are people still enslaved in Galveston. Let's say you're in Houston, and there are people still enslaved in Galveston, and you know about them. What is your responsibility to them to tell them and their slave master, y'all, imagine a freed African in America at that time who drives by Galveston, Texas, and sees people still enslaved, and you know you're free. They don't know they're free. How do you feel? How do you think about that enslaved person? What do you want to do for that person? Do you just count your blessings and say, glad I wasn't born in Galveston? Do you think, man, somebody's got to tell them, but I can't risk my life to tell them? What do you think? What do you do?
I've never been that mind my own business type person. So I don't know that I would be that kind of person, even if it was, to like almost 200 years ago. It is that emotional moment is so much for me that it is hard for me to go deep into it, because it is like, I'm almost like really like pulling in trauma that is, yes, in my bloodline, but I'm like, I don't know if I can take that right now. Like, wow, I'm living this current trauma, right? Like, to take on that other stuff is like, I don't know if I'll get up tomorrow morning, So I've tried to be superficial a little bit about this, but I would say it is already going to be tricky, because you can't just like do on over to the next door plantation without fear of being shot. Like, you're just going to be like, hey, guys, stop, put down the tools. Drop the sackcloth. We're free. What do you think would be some of the consequences of that? I can still imagine, even though it might not be legal, that there would be, paper signs still being posted or printed saying something like, if you come onto the Johnson plantation to tell anybody anything, shot on sight, right? Like, we gonna handle you.
Yeah.
If you have any official business, it needs to be, I don't know, in writing from the US government, and it needs to go straight to Mr. Johnson himself. Like, you know, like something to be like very protective about how this information is shared.
Yeah. So what I'd like the viewer and even you, Crystal, to think about is, I want to transition now. Imagine because you escaped a Christian upbringing. People tried to Christianize you, but even when you were young, you knew that the yoke of Christianity just didn't fit you.
Yeah.
We told your deconversion story, and in that we kind of explored the idea of, did you ever even convert? Because you were trying to figure out, like, how does this work out? And at some point you decided, this is not for me. You left it. What I'd like you to consider and the viewer to consider is, can you imagine a point in history where you, having already been freed from religion, and particularly Christianity, looking at other Christians who are still in the bondage of religion and they don't even know it? Imagine freeing the last Christian from bondage. In the same way that the U.S. Army had to go to Galveston and tell the last vestiges of slavery, no more. And they're now free. And we can now celebrate completely that this scourge, this is over. Do you think that there will ever come a day where the U.S. will be able to celebrate the last Christians mentally enslaved to this religion?
Well, from what I understand, there were still people who didn't know that they were free for many, many years after that. Like, I remember hearing some wild shit or reading some wild shit about, I can't, don't get me to lie, but it was well into the 1900s before these like groups of people were like, you know, like figured out what was going on, because they were so, like, you know how abusers will do, they will isolate you and will, you know, gaslight you. And like, I'm the only one that can provide for you. I'm the only one that knows you. Where else are you going to go? And I think that Christianity is very much the same way. And so I'm thinking about, like, I don't know if it will ever happen. It's almost like to me, that's a fantasy. I want it. I don't know if it will happen. And if it happens, I don't think it would be in my lifetime. But like I said before, that because I'm raw about who I am and where we are now, like, you gotta be free, boo, come on. That I would imagine I'm still doing that when it comes to slavery. If I'm doing that with Christianity, I'm gonna do that with slavery. Because there are so many parallels. Like, when you are a slave, you don't have autonomy over your body, your family, your labor. And that's the same thing with Christianity. Anything that happens in Christianity is like, your body is a temple. Your body belongs to the Lord. Your spirit belongs to this one. Anything good that happens to you, any work you're doing, give honor to God. Like, you can't even own anything, or else you're being like ego driven and selfish. It's such bullshit. Like, you can't ever take care or think of yourself as being a whole person. It's really God that makes you who you are. And then everything else is like a little sprinkling on top. So like that delayed freedom, again, another parallel, like we are, you know, you said 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, but then we also have people staying in Christianity long after they could be free, because there's so many other ties of like, where am I gonna go, so to speak. My family's here, my community's here, my friends are here. This is where I go once a week for social connection and all those kind of things. So there's that delayed freedom as well. Like a lot of people who are deconstructing, it takes time, because the moment you figure things out and have the light bulb is not where you go running out into the streets and telling everybody what you've discovered. You like have to slowly like navigate and extricate and be like, well, how am I going to raise my kids? Who can I talk to about this? Maybe you get into a fight with your parents or your sister or whatever. Like there's all this delayed freedom.
Wow.
To try
Jeez.
to educate yourself.
Delayed freedom. Oh my gosh. I don't know if it's the whiskey or that statement. That just sent me to a place, because I'm thinking about in my deconversion, the stages of freedom. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I'm responsible for this part of my life. Oh, wait, this falls on me. Like the comparisons between, like, think about all the things the newly freed, enslaved African has to, like, my master who didn't feed me well was responsible for feeding me, though. Now that's on me.
Yes.
My master who was cruel with giving me a schedule doesn't have control of my schedule anymore. Now that's on me. So even though I didn't like all the things my master was doing, damn, now that I have to do those things, like, okay, what am I going to? And then in deconverting, it's the same. Jesus used to tell me who I was. Now I got to figure out my identity. The Bible used to tell me what my purpose was and what the meaning of life. Now I got to figure that out. All like oh my God, the stages of freedom.
Yes, because freedom, yes, freedom is only the beginning. Like the safety and the community and power still have to be fought for.
Oh my gosh. This is therapeutic for me, because I'm understanding why at different stages of my deconversion, I felt like I was regaining myself. And the fear, the trepidation, the excitement, all the feelings that come along with that. And then if I have to put that back into the body of my ancestors, they went through this too, just with a different topic. And here's the crazy thing. As they were going through now I have to take ownership of myself. And now I have to figure out. Yeah. They coped through Christianity, many of them. So while they were going through their coming to own themselves, they coped with something that I'm now shedding. So it's kind of meta to think about it that way.
Well, you're right. I'm definitely in agreement with you that there's, like, as you're leaving slavery, as you're leaving Christianity, those stages are real, and a lot of people find refuge in African spirituality. Maybe secular humanism if you're lucky, but it could be witchcraft. It could be, like, I'm spiritual now. Could be Satanism. Could be any of these things. Depends on the stage, but it's not necessarily just for the sake of rebellion, but it's an effort to reclaim agency and to find truth. So it's like deconstruction is almost a form of, like, you're having to spiritually maroon yourself. And, like, you have to flee the dogma, right? But you're also trying to find a free interior world. So you're trying to distance yourself, but also, like, reclaim.
Find yourself. Yeah, I mean, there's so much there. So here's one of the things I'll share. So for a while, people in the atheist, skeptic, agnostic space were celebrating because the Pew Foundation were doing these polls and surveys and finding that the category of religious was shrinking in this country
Mm-hmm.
to the point where people were saying, my affiliation is none. The category of I'm not affiliated with any religious category. I don't have a religion. The nuns, they call them, not N-U-N, N-O-N-E. The nuns were growing. I'm not religious at all.
Mm-hmm.
But that was, I think, 2022, 2023. This rise of white Christian nationalism has made even irreligious people, think about Joe Rogan, begin to say, wait, what are we doing now? The place where we're going to find community and comfort and momentum and identity, and we're going to find that in Christianity. I wonder what a Pew survey would say today. I just saw Michael Apple come into the chat. Maybe Michael Apple, because he's so on to a lot of information. Maybe you'd know, or maybe you could find out. I don't know. Is the category of Christian and Christian evangelical, is that beginning to grow again in light of the way Christian nationalism is becoming the trend and making people think, whether I like the political ideology or not, I do like the fact that my God's name is being mentioned by the people with the power. And because of that, maybe I'm going to affiliate myself with Christianity again. I'm curious because I got a couple of videos I want to play about things that have been happening recently. But what do you think about the rise of, I don't even want to say Christianity, because the old Christian part of me would not have called what Trump and them are doing now Christianity, but they're using the name. So I'm just going to ask you, I'm going to use Christianity, even though I know Christians would say, no, we don't all think like that. So I'm just going to ask you, what do you think about the rise of, or the wave, if it's not a rise, of Christianity that we're seeing today in the social political sphere?
I think of it as just an exchange of like tokenism, like it's just for power. It's just like, okay, if I take your Christian token, then or if I give you my Christian token, maybe it's that way. If I give you my Christian token and say I'm on board, then you give me a power token in exchange.
Yo, you just said in 5 seconds. I remember back to earlier episodes of this podcast with Jay Witt, my former co-host. I took all kinds of time to say what you just Jay Witt, if you're watching, because now he's come around. Jay Witt used to say, nah, Brady, you're tripping. I don't think Trump and white Christian nationalism, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Now, when I talk to him, he's like, I was wrong. You were right. You saw it ahead of time. But what you just said, oh my gosh, please, if you have any more to say, feel free, but that was crazy.
Yeah. So Christianity is a privileged status in our nation, just like whiteness, wealth, right? So, maleness. So when you have especially when you have Black people, and especially when you have Black women, right? Tapping into Christianity, that's also a level of power they receive access to. So now to be affiliated with the white Christian nationalists, they're not, those guys aren't the real Christians. We're the real ones, and they'll still cleave and hold on to it. So I think that it's the power is too hard to let go. And it kind of lets you know, hey, I guess for some of us who really are steeped in integrity, I like to think that right now, any senses of privilege I have, I'm willing to forego and negotiate so that we can have equity, right? My privileges as being a natural, a U.S. born citizen, being able to speak unaccented English, things like that, like the little privileges I have being straight or whatever. If I assist, so if I take those little things and go, I don't care about that. I care about equity. Fine. But for those who are thinking that they would do that, like, oh, we're downtrodden as Black women, but you are still clinging to your Christianity, that lets you know that you're not ready to let go of power. Like,
wow.
you're not, because you still want that little, those few little straws that you can grasp at that connect you to something that, like, you like hearing that when you say I'm Christian, that people automatically think you're a good person, or God's working on me means you're really trying to better yourself, even though you ain't doing shit. You're just saying that when you, like, at times when you get pissed off or get frustrated. So I don't have any of those little go-to phrases to work with. So people just gonna have to take me for what I am,
Yeah.
But I think that they're like, I don't know that there's more people identifying as Christian, like who are truly believing or seeing the light, so to speak. If anything, they like you said, who's saying they're Christian and are like wanting to be part of that gang, right?
Yeah.
And we want to be in charge, want to feel powerful. I remember as a Christian, I was like, oh, we're the biggest group? Evidence of brightness. Oh, we're the, like, we're the ones who are kind of in charge. Look, it's on our money and stuff. And we in our pledge to the flag, like it's in our, national anthem and all kind of stuff. Duh, because we write. It's like reinforcement of seeing all that stuff. And then once you step out of that system, then everything doesn't point to you anymore. It doesn't support you anymore. It doesn't make you feel good anymore. So you're going to have to leave all of that reinforcement behind, all of that, all those pats on the back. You have to leave those behind.
Excellent. Hey, Eddie said there's a growing group of people identifying themselves as evangelicals, not religiously, but politically. It's a relatively new phenomenon. And there's actually a great video about that. I'm going to put the link in the chat and then I'll put it in the description of the video. This is the video here where there's a YouTuber who actually made a video talking about the way, or the reason, if not the way, people are beginning to identify, even people who are not Christian, like they're actually Buddhist and other religions, but they're identifying as evangelicals because they don't see it as a religious claim, but more of a political claim. So if you're watching this and you're not watching the live, I'll put the link in the description of the video so you can go check out this video from this YouTuber. It's a short video where they're breaking this down, but I just put it in the chat for you guys too. All right. So here's why I think even though the religious nuns were growing, now if Hey Eddie is right, the religious nuns have stopped growing, and now the evangelicals are growing. I'm going to play a couple quick videos for you real quick, and I would love to hear your response to these. This is our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, a man who is a known philanderer and drunk, who's never had a high position of authority. He did run a couple of nonprofits, but he kind of ran them into the ground. But because he was a Fox News host, he hosted a segment on Fox. Trump likes reality TV, so he picked Pete Hegseth to be the Secretary of Defense. Here's what Pete Hegseth said. If I get this job, if I get nominated, I'll stop drinking. Imagine a black man with or without a history of alcoholism saying, if y'all give me this job, I'll stop drinking. Imagine him saying that and getting the job.
Imagine how much you have to be drinking for you to have to bargain that way. And be like, if I get the job, y'all, I promise. Like, I'm a slow down, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna stop it. Because I know y'all know that I got a lot of shit going on. But I'm gonna try my best and I'm gonna do everything y'all told me to do. It's just like so crackheadish in a way, like to Were you drunk when you said it? Like,
not only were you drunk when you said it, but you got the job, and on the job you did some wild out type shit. You're sending high class, like classified, nobody should know this information in a Signal app kind of shit. After you said, if you give me the job, I'll stop drinking. Anyway, that's Pete Hegseth, our Secretary of Defense. Here he is, the man who was the former Secretary General of the United States. I think that's what Mark Milley was. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Mark Milley was the head of the Secretary of not Secretary of Defense. He was what was Mark Milley? Somebody in I think the whiskey is getting to me. The commander of the army. That's who he was. Joint Chief of Staff. I forget what.
Yeah,
what Mark Milley's,
chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Oh, thank you, because I was losing my shit just now. Yes, Joint Chiefs. Mark Milley. This is back during 2020 during the protests. People were protesting Black Lives Matter and all that. The DC protests. Trump wants to leave the White House and go take a photo with a Bible in front of a church. And he tells the Joint Chief of Staff, Mark Milley, hey, these protesters, shoot them.
Sorry.
Yes.
So
shoot them.
Like, this is real.
Okay, just shoot them in the legs. Mark Milley's like, yo, the U.S. military is not to be used against the fucking citizens of the country. What are you talking about? So Mark Milley refuses. He rejects. He put this in the book that he just put out. Here is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth before Congress last week testifying about why the National Guard against the governor, Newsom, against his wishes, and not just the National Guard, the Marines. Why the hell are they on the streets of Los Angeles? So here you have a member of Congress questioning him. Let's see what she says, and then let's check out Pete Hegseth's response.
He didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right. He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay. So your poo-pooing of this, it just shows you don't understand.
So before this, she asked him if Trump told you to send the Marines into LA and gave them an order of shoot to kill, to use lethal, not the non-lethal rubber bullets and all that shit they're using now, lethal ammunition, would you obey that order? And he's sort of just like, are you living in a dream world? He wouldn't really answer the question. So now she's hammering him to answer the question.
Understand who we are as a country, who we are. And all of my colleagues across the aisle, especially the ones that served, should want an apolitical military and not want citizens to be scared of their own military. I love the military. I served alongside my whole life. So I'm worried about you tainting it. Have you given the order? Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against honor? I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
So she says, Mark Milley wrote this in his book, that's what Trump asked him to do. Shoot the protesters in the leg. Mark Milley refused. Anybody who's interested, the story goes on. Mark Milley is no longer in that position now that Trump's back in office. And Pete Hegseth, I don't know if it was Trump or Pete Hegseth, one of them, I think it was Pete Hegseth, removed the security clearance for them and the safety detail that they had. So now they've got no secure detail. So she's now asking him about this.
Answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Oh my God. So your former predecessor, I guess that's not enough for you. Okay.
So he says,
What was that?
Yes, talk to me. Tell me.
What the fuck was that? Be careful about what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible. What the actual holy moly? Like, what the hap is fucking? right now.
Yes.
Okay.
The religious nuns were growing. Now there's something happening with this white Christian nationalism, this evangelicalism, where our Secretary of Defense, can be asked, are you going, if Trump tells you to, are you going to give the order for our troops to kill our citizens? Because the person who was formerly the Joint Chiefs of Staff wouldn't do that. Will you do that? He says, you read it in the book, be careful what you believe in books and believe, unless it's the Bible, because we all know that for us, the Bible, we all believe that shit. What does that tell you?
It tells me, it reinforces that, like, the dumbing down of our government, of our nation. What? It just makes me so sad. Be careful what you believe. Like, why? That's not even, he's still not answering the fucking question, which drives me insane now that I'm no longer a believer. I noticed.
So hold on. Before you go insane with this, go back to when you were a believer. You hear your Secretary of Defense say this. Do you cheer it? Like, Christian, if you're a Christian watching, Mr. Biscuit, if you're still here, as a Christian, do you hear your Secretary of Defense say, be careful what you believe in books, except the Bible? Do you hear that as a Christian and say, that's right? Or do you think that's a fucking problem?
You asking the wrong one. You might have to leave that to Mr. Biscuit, because you already know that I'm gonna be like, the fuck, because that's where I love learning through text. I'm a literacy coach. Like, yeah. Oh, thank you. Hey, Eddie, you dumbing down or evening up? Either way, I think it's both. Because they're not even like good supervillains, you know what I mean? Like that are clever and shit. It's just like they're all kind of the minions that got promoted. So yeah, I'm not. I don't even know what that fucking means. It means don't trust anybody or anything except for this. And then that book is the most fucked up of fuckeries, and we're supposed to like put our trust in that. It's like he's gaslighting her. He's saying, don't believe your eyeballs. Believe this book. Don't believe your ears. Believe me. Like, yeah, it's gaslighting. Like, he's making her question her whole reality. And I love her exasperation for all of us, where she's like, oh my God. Like, she almost sounds like the teenagers that I'll be around sometimes. Like, oh my God. Like, you know, that shit where they just are exasperated. That's what she was doing in the middle of her job, in the middle of that meeting. Like, she couldn't take him no more. She was sick of him.
All right. Well, it doesn't stop there, because
yay!
Can you see the Texas required?
Yes, I can see.
So this is what's happening in your state. They sent a bill to the governor to have the 10 Commandments in every classroom in the state, and now this is before your governor Abbott. And they say he's likely, this is going to pass. He's going to sign this bill where now teachers in Texas you're not a teacher anymore as much as you teach teachers now. But this is what's happening in your state. What are your thoughts on this? Because they feel like, and here's how they're sneaking it in.
Okay.
The 10 Commandments are part of America's history. And therefore, if we get this back on the walls in our classroom, teachers will be able to better help students understand why America was at one point such a moral country. And here's how we can get back there, because this is part of our history. Thoughts?
They know they fucking lying. That ain't.
Oh, wait. I didn't share it the way I wanted to share. I'm sorry. This was a bad Sorry, y'all. This was a bad share. How do I stop this? This is crazy. Okay, sorry.
No worries, no worries. But yeah, they know they fucking lying. Just saying, it's American history. Like they had to, like it just felt like they just grabbed something. Yeah, you know. Yeah, they pulled that from their asses. There's no reason to put the 10 Commandments up in schools. That notion opposes the idea of a free and fair public education. That's thank you, my unique Monique was never a moral country. Let's start there. Thank you, boo, because hell yeah. I think that I'm not seeing how that would help anybody. And if anything, it would further confuse the issue. One of the things that I see the most that is saddest to me is students, because I'm working with elementary school teachers, right? So that's like 1st to 5th grade in this state. I see students who match what the studies say, which is those who have a religious belief have a harder time telling the difference between fantasy
reality and truth. Yeah.
And
hold on. I'm sorry. For anybody who's watching who's a Christian, think about that. Think about this. There have been actual studies done. Religious people, and they're not just targeting your religion, they're not picking on Christians. Religious people, particularly fundamentalists, have a hard time differentiating between truth and fiction and fall for conspiracy theories, debunked and easily debunkable conspiracy theories much more easily. Please, before you pick up a stone and throw at me, think I'm attacking your religion. This is people of religions in general. Think about what that means for you as a believer. Just think about that. I'm sorry, Crystal, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. And then to what Solomon Essex is saying, is like that the critical thinking course is being banned from Texas public school. There have been several other, policies that have kind of been setting up for this kind of shit. But what I'm seeing is students like shutting down their critical thinking when it comes to religion. So we have these teachers, and here we are, like they're coaches, and I'm coaching their coaches to help students think critically. So when a student gives an answer to a question that the teacher has posed, then the teacher is like, and the answer is right. Now the teacher is like, and where did you find that in the text? Right? Like pushing the student back to the text because, this is to increase literacy, right? Like whatever your claim is, whatever even your opinion is, where did you get that from the text? You don't get to pull that from back when you were 4, what your mama does or whatever. You have to pull it from what this author posted in the text for these particular characters or this information that they're delivering. Now, when students start shutting that down, like if we're talking about the Revolutionary War, let's say, and that's a 4th grade unit, for students to say something like, why do you think, and they have to infer something about why they think it, about why the colonists might have thrown the tea into Boston Harbor, right? Like, of course, the answer is because of the intolerable acts that the British was imposing on them. And then, of course, all the taxes and everything when there was no representation for colonists in the British government. But for somebody to say something more like, well, because that's what God wanted, I don't know, or they write that in their little response.
I'm laughing because the only reason why I'm laughing is because one of the videos that we have to play is exactly dealing with that. And I think I probably should just go right to it now because you set it up so perfectly. So please allow me. Let's just do this.
Leading defender of Israel. I would think if I ran for Senate, I'd be like, there are people dying of drug ODs on the street.
My driving motive is to fight for Texas and America and to fight for jobs and to fight for the Constitution.
There's a lot going on with Texas for some reason. We got more Texas videos, one more Texas video coming up. But here you have a senator from Texas who is the what is he? He's something to Israel. He's fighting for Israel. But listen to what Ted Cruz says about why he's fighting for Israel, even though he's trying to say, no, I'm mainly about Texas. But watch.
And you played a very, very careful word game of eliding.
You're the one who said it, not me.
So you still haven't asked why, but I'm going to tell you why.
Hold on. Also, there's too much to set up here. Too fucking much. Do you know about this clip? Have you seen this clip already?
No, I'm just disgusted by the both of them.
Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to hold it in.
So please know that there's no reason why will be showing the two of these people on screen unless it was good for us. Okay. Something crazy is happening in the United States right now. Yes, the religious nuns were growing as a category. Then evangelicalism starts growing as a category. But what's happening right now is because Trump is so batshit crazy and unorganized and just fucking useless as a leader, even people in his own party are starting to say, the fuck are we doing? That either his economics, his foreign policy, his immigration, people in his own party are saying, what's going on? So now that Israel is going to war with Iran and Trump is trying to figure out, I want to look like I'm a part of whoever's winning. And if Israel's winning, I got to side with them now. So now Cruz is caping for Trump because Trump is caping for Israel. But Tucker Carlson is part of the Republican Party, the GOP, that are saying we don't need to be getting dragged into another war in the Middle East. So Tucker Carlson and even Marjorie Taylor Greene, I hate even saying her fucking name, they're now starting to say, we're not with this. We shouldn't be doing this. So please watch. Me asking you to watch Tucker Carlson do anything is like bizarro world. But watch Tucker Carlson try to hold Ted Cruz's feet to the fire. And in this interview, he does an excellent job of making Ted Cruz look like the fucking idiot he is, showing that Tucker Carlson is not an idiot either. But he's been playing one on TV for the last 15 years. So with that in mind, watch this.
So you still haven't asked why, but I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
And
the why is he supporting the U.S. entering this war on behalf of Israel?
the reason is twofold. Number one, as a Christian, growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who...
Hold on. Let me take them off screen because you're having reactions already. Talk to us.
I'm so grossed out. I just want to be on the Christian side of things. I want to be the winner. Which is also like, I think why people try to, like, why they still cling to Christianity. It's like the winning side, you know. That God will do anything. He'll wipe out everyone if need be. Like he's going to be on your side in a war. He's going to tell you what can be done and what should be done. And as long as you follow it, you get to, I don't know, keep all
the virgins for yourself.
Your old virgin for yourself.
No. Let's always be specific. Not the 13-year-old virgins, even the infant girls.
Yes.
Kill the infant males, all the women who have not women, all the young women, all the infant women who have not known men, you get to keep them. So let's make sure we put Bible God on the hook for that bullshit.
You're right.
Yeah. So, but there's more. So if you're disgusted by Cruz saying, hey, I want to be on the blessing side, because the God of the Bible says those who bless Israel will be blessed, those who curse them will be cursed. That's why I'm supporting Israel. But
oh, by the way, my unique Monique, yes. And I think it's bizarre to agree with Tucker Carlson.
So you don't even know so watch what Tucker Carlson does here. This is very interesting.
It's the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government.
So I'm gonna go back
and from my position, growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless.
Hold on. First of all, it's also worth noting you're a grown fucking man with gray hair and a dad bod. You're basing your political decisions today on what you were taught in fucking Sunday school? Are you serious? You're living well off of taxpayer dollars. And you're basing your decisions on what you're going to vote for, on what you were taught in Sunday school as a little fucking lad. Are you serious?
Not a lad, B.
Yes.
Israel will be blessed. And those who, growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use the.
It's in Genesis, but so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. And you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology. I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Gathered him in one.
Clock that T. He played him so badly. Where is that exactly? I don't remember. It's in Genesis. Anyway, like, how are you putting it as the foundation of your whole shit when you don't even know where it is? I'm confused. I use that a lot. I do. I say I'm confused. You know, like I've played that whole shit. Well, this is the thing, and that is the thing. I don't understand. Help me. I'm confused.
What does that mean? You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
hold on.
Hold
on. You're a senator and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's
talk to us.
I love it because it's like define Israel. Well, are you a fucking idiot that doesn't know? You know, well, yeah, I know what it is, but we're talking about a couple thousand years ago, having this be written, and then now, like, you know, what the borders look like, because borders are political. They're not real. They're not God ordained or anything. They're just agreements that humans make about where one place ends and another begins. So this border changing over time, does this still apply to what you're saying, like in this verse in Genesis? And for Ted Cruz to not really know, but to just have been ready only to say, I support the Bible, I believe this, and that's it, is so telling. And yeah, he looks like an idiot.
My thing is, because he goes on that, like, Tucker digs into him and holds his feet to the fire. Do I have it here? Let me see if I have the I didn't send it to myself, so I can't show it. There's a guy that I'm friends with on Facebook who when I was a Christian, we probably were two peas in a pod. Now, every time he posts, I throw up. Figuratively, but almost literally. Every time he posts, I'm like, oh my God. But he posted something about this. He said, can somebody please tell Ted Cruz, and he went to this Romans think it's Romans 9 or whatever passage where Paul says, not all Israel is Israel. And Paul makes this delineation between the physical people of Israel and the new spiritual people of Israel. So even within the Christian camp, you have room to say not all Israel is Israel, in light of what Paul is teaching Christians to believe about Jews, about Israel, about the nation, about God's plan. But even outside of that bullshit of trying to figure out what Paul is saying, what Christians should believe about Israel and all that, Christians, y'all got to figure that shit out for yourselves. My issue is, why are you a grown fucking man, and B, an elected official that we're paying, you're living off of my tax dollars? Why are you basing your foreign policy on what a fucking book says from 2,000 years ago? The very fact that you're doing anything based on the book says this, so here's why I'm doing this. That's a problem. Yes. It ties into this episode in this way. Like you said, in our lifetime, I don't know if we're going to be able to free the last Christian, because shit like this is going on. Shit like, you're an elected official. You should have maps and history books and philosophy and foreign policy and sociology. You should have that shit in front of you, not a Bible trying to figure out whether or not you're going to support what Israel's doing in Iran. That's the crazy part to me.
It is crazy. It is crazy. And that's why I'm, thinking that for the 10 Commandments to be issued into public schools is like a very Ted Cruz-y thing. Like, I only thought about this so far. All I know is, kind of how he's like, all I know is I want to be on Israel's side. I want to be on the blessing side, but doesn't know anything beyond that. I think that's kind of what's happening with the 10 Commandments. Like, all I know is it has to do with morality and it's just good things. So who doesn't like good things? But it's actually, I would argue that it is harmful. The first 4 commandments are, as I've heard others put colorfully, is God sucking his own dick, right? So just saying stuff that feeds into his ego, don't worship anybody else but me. And don't make any images, and take a day off to like worship me and like rest. It's just like, what? Why are you wasting valuable real estate on these tablets here? God, Yahweh.
You know what's crazy? Please keep what you were going to follow this up with. But I was going to actually debate with you on this, because I was going to say, I think there could be some utility in having the thou shalt nots posted in classrooms, but not the first 4.
Okay. Like,
you know what I mean? Like, to have a child in the classroom and looking up and seeing a placard it's being commended, if not commanded, it's being commended to him that's stealing and killing. And like to have an impressionable person grow up thinking, oh, I shouldn't do that. I think there's some utility in that. And I was going to say
those ones, but what does the fuck that have to do with the whole 10 Commandments? It doesn't take the 10 Commandments to know not to murder a person or to steal from them. Kids are learning that like in elementary school, like, when somebody takes things from me, I don't like that. And so like, when they do those things as a teacher, when I'm talking to like a 9-year-old human,
I'm sorry. It's either the whiskey or something you just said. I'm going to come back to it. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Oh, I just had an excellent idea. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Okay. So when I'm having those conversations, or when I did have those conversations with them, it was very much like, tell me why you did this. What was going through your mind when you were, and so then I can kind of feel out whether they were thinking something on the lines of like, I lack this thing, and
Mhm.
and so it just would feel good to have it. Or that person was, committed some perceived infraction to me, and now this is my revenge. Like, you can kind of get a sense where their head is at. But in the end, it winds up coming back to, well, we are a community. And if you would like for there to be less stealing here, then you have to not steal.
Yeah.
And that's basically the same thing with the wider, broader worldwide community. If you would like for there to be less murdering, then how about you not murder, right? And you want to have less lying, then that would put lying on you to not do, which is probably one of the hardest ones, because we've got like white lies and then moral stuff, like it would help somebody to lie to them a little bit, and like some philosophical type shits. So I think that there are definitely, like those rules right there about the murdering, stealing, and lying that are still relevant today.
Yeah.
But why do we have the other fucking 10, including the one where women are seen as property, and then we don't have the ones that are more relevant for today, like don't oppress others.
Yeah.
Don't own other people as property. Don't rape anybody. Look for enthusiastic consent. Like
Yeah.
There's so many other ways to.
So let me try to answer your question, because this was just rocked the shit out of me just now. It's not the whiskey. I'm tracking with you, and when you begin to speak, I was going to answer your question, but in the answer, I think is the solution. And part of me is like, yo, don't say it on the podcast. Keep this for yourself, and then you can like roll it out some kind of way for you, like to personally benefit from it. But fuck that. I'm going to say it now. And maybe you'll say it is the whiskey, because maybe you won't be as blown away by it as I am. But your question was, why do we need the first 4? Why not just have the don't kill, don't steal, don't murder, don't whatever? But the reason why I do think the first 4, here's why I was going to debate with you, but now I'm not at all. You can't just have the thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet, because just having the thou shalt nots doesn't carry the kind of weight it has if you don't attach it to something relational and something that has authority. So you need the first 4 to know who's saying you shouldn't kill, shouldn't steal, who has the authority to tell you that. But if you don't fuck with a God, if you don't have a category, like, do you then lose that? I was going to say, damn, I think we lose. If you lose the first 4, you don't have any authority or relation for the last 6. But that's not true now.
Okay.
Because remember before you said, here's how I know it's not the whiskey, because I can remember the earlier part of the conversation. When you said before, like when you leave religion, hopefully or luckily you get roped into humanism, but if not, maybe something like witchcraft or whatever. Therein lies, how do you regain the first 4 if you get rid of God? Imagine replacing the first 4 with humanism. You still get the last 6, and maybe like you said, maybe you need to replace the, your covet your neighbor's wife and that kind of shit. Come up with a better last 6. And instead of having God as the first 4, the basis of humanism is the self. Once you identify the self principle as, I wouldn't like it if somebody stole from me, if somebody murdered me, if somebody lied to me. Replace the first 4, instead of this God relation and authority, you become the first 4. I don't like it if this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. Therefore, now the last 6 is, therefore, we shouldn't allow, or we shouldn't favor or look favorably on anyone else doing this, or this to another person. I think there's a way to come up with 10 commandments that work by removing God and putting the self in. And this is where the Christian is actually right. Or you want to get rid of God so you can become your own God. Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if he's not going to speak up, I've got to speak up. I've got to speak for me. I said enough, but I mean, you put me on a whole trajectory with that thought. So thank you for that.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. Like, yeah, I need to be the one to speak these things into my own behavior, because I'm the one who's going to be held accountable for it, right? So that's why I was so fascinated when I found like the 7 tenets of Satanism, the Satanic Temple. I'm sorry, I don't want to get it wrong, but the Satanic Temple's 7 tenets, I think. And I also, like, before I get into those, I want to say that, again, when dealing with humans, giving them rules where you say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, is far less effective than telling them what it is you want them to do. So even right now, if I say, everyone watching, don't imagine a pink elephant.
Right.
What the fuck? You like imagine right. So I'm thinking about, like, when I see, a student running in the hallway or something, and a teacher says, don't run. I'm like, what is it that you want them to do? You want them to walk. You want them to walk? Then you would say, please walk. Because if you say don't run, they can still skip, they can still be dug in, they can still be, and will. So you have to say what it is you want. And so if you're going to issue commandments, command what it is that should be happening, like frame the language positively so that it's like the tenets, like, we're going to practice compassion and empathy for all living things, or for all living beings, whatever it is, and rather than don't kill them, So I think, which is like the bare minimum.
Right. Because the same God who says don't kill them goes on to say that you can enslave them and you can beat them and you can.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So you got all that other skipping and duggying, you know what I'm saying? To do to the humans.
Excellent. Wow. Excellent. I got one more Texas video to play for you. Okay. I should have chopped this video up, so I hope I'm going to play it at the point where I want to play it.
Okay.
But this is teachers in Texas quitting because it's so hard to teach in Texas for a variety of reasons. Several of the reasons that they're going to get to is the issues of pay, and then what's happening with the administration and healthcare. But this should be interesting. And as somebody who teaches teachers in Texas, I would love to get your thoughts on this segment here.
Here's my first thought. I hate it here.
Okay. Well, before I even play it, why do you hate it here?
Because I'm living in a super conservative state that's full of dumbass policies, and I'm super leftist and liberal and whatever, feminist, all these other things. And I can see all of that shit playing out. It's the American South. It's got all this religion baked in. God bless us. When you on posters, when you first walk in, saying the pledge every morning, and the Texas pledge as well. So there's a lot of different things, even the curriculum that was being considered for next year. I was chosen to be on that committee because people can see, like, I'm good at what I do. So I wind up being chosen for these little select committees. But I had to speak up and say, this curriculum is not ideal for us to choose as a district because it eliminates certain units and certain chapters, and then inserts others that are based on Christianity. Like, it removes the whole unit on the Reformation, right? Which is where we see the church right after the Renaissance, where everything is like religious inspired, and Michelangelo and them are getting commissioned by the church to do all these wonderful works of art. And so people are like, well, if you're gonna make money as an artist, let me go ahead and do the stuff. And they make these beautiful things, right? But then right after that, when it start to get into where the church has too much power and they kind of doing the most, and they kind of, we already went through the Crusades and now they still acting up, and we starving and they got stuff. And, you get like Martin Luther and like the Protestantism kind of rising there, and the printing press, where people don't have to just rely on priests to read in Latin to them when they go to a mass, because Catholicism was the thing. Now we can read it for ourselves, and information is spreading more and more and more. When you get to that and you start to criticize the church and start to see that it was like this wealthy force that was not always good or right or fair, and then you take that unit out, right?
Wow.
And then you put in a unit on like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is super Christian coded, right? hint, hint, like the lion is Jesus, you know what I'm saying? Like, so when you take certain things out and put certain things in, like, oh, the Civil War only stopped because Abraham Lincoln was a Christian, and his God said that all people are equal. So that's why he wrote his speech saying that all people are equal. And then asking questions in the worksheets, like in the activity pages, about why did Jesus say, treat others the way you want to be treated? And how did that lead to Abraham Lincoln? And this is second grade, right?
Damn.
Like,
what?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it was at every grade level. I was like, clock, 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 second, third, fourth, fifth. Everybody from first to fifth. I was like, no. And so some of the other districts that have adopted this are now being sued because like Muslim parents or whoever are no, not okay. Right. And so since my district didn't adopt it this year, I feel like, okay, you really saved yourself some litigation fees. Honestly, is what it is. I'm glad, and I hope that you're listening to what little peons like me might have to say. But I would say that's one of my biggest concerns living in Texas. Please, rotate.
So with Project 2025, Solomon Essex made a comment. He said, "The right is social engineering its way to theocracy," and that's what we're watching. You talk about boiling a crab slowly by turning it up degree by degree. That's sort of what's been going on. And now we're seeing the flames coming out from the sides of the pot now because they've been slowly turning this thing up. So this is teachers who've quit in Texas. They were teachers. And now you may have seen this. They're being interviewed about why they quit. And this is only part of the segment where they start talking about the healthcare portion.
Okay. Initially approved to work from home.
But then I started getting emails from like the district and they were like, yeah, it's time for you to get back. So I called somebody in the district and they were like, yeah, do you pray? Like, what does that have to do with anything? What does me praying have to do with me coming back to school?
Every teacher here.
He says because he was having anxiety issues, he couldn't teach in the classroom anymore, but he was able to teach from home and it was working. And then they made this mandate, you got to come back to the classroom. He said, the health issues, I can't. And their response was, do you pray? But
says they saw the effect of increased stress on their health with high blood pressure, anxiety, and panic attacks.
I had an anxiety attack on the day of STAR. I thought I had committed like treason.
You're still expected to maintain mental health when you're giving your all, and then but don't you know God? Oh, yeah. But don't you know God?
We studied all 100.
So just talk to me real quick, buddy. These teachers who are having anxiety attacks and dealing with stress on the verge of quitting, the healthcare department for the Department of Education, their response to these teachers, these teachers, I don't know if they're Christians or not, but the teachers are complaining that the Department of Education, their response to them is, do you pray and don't you know God? This is the Department of Education telling Texas teachers, if you knew God, you should be able to come back into this classroom without us giving you a pay raise or doing anything for your mental health.
That whole time was so fucked up. Like, I feel like we had this huge opportunity where parents were having to educate their own children, and had this newfound respect for educators. And I feel like that was an opportunity to seize for us to have better pay, benefits, and conditions, rather than trying to scrimp and scrap for like paper to make copies, but it was squandered and we were just pressured to come back to buildings. Well, we can't let these taxpayer funds go with, we got to keep the lights on. So y'all better come up in here. It is so unfortunate. It is a big deal here to be Christian. I've been asked a couple of times, like when the conversation comes up and I'm staying quiet and they're like, well, what church do you go to? Damn. Now I'm kind of like, I got to out myself, I'm not required, of course, but that's the time where I typically do out myself as atheist. I'm like, I don't go to church, I'm atheist. And then like, watch them look at me like I'm a poisonous snake or whatever, or ask weird questions. So last summer, in that summer camp, they started praying at the, like we all would gather every morning in a circle, and every afternoon after the students had left, like before and after, to like do announcements and, okay, look out for this today. Let's do this. Remember that you got to submit your timesheets. Yeah. Right. But then they started praying. And so when they started praying, I just walked away every time. Leave the circle.
Were you the only one that walked away?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Please remember your point, but I'm curious, how did that feel being the only one walking away from what everyone knew was a coming prayer?
It felt terrible because I felt very isolated. I felt like I was doing something mean, even though what I knew I was doing the right thing. Like I was shitting on their joyful time or something, their community time. And nobody ever asked me about it or anything like that. I didn't talk to anybody about it until the last day of camp, and was like, I noticed the person who's leading this is the counselor of this school. So like during the normal school year. So if she's doing this during the summertime, like, come on, like we can't do that. And so I went to her office sort of with the goal in mind of asking her for if she knew any therapists, because counselors often know therapists, right? And they're in that community. Does she know any therapists that I could use or like be referred to? And then I could also lay out that I'm looking for a secular therapist, right? And that I am concerned about religion and how it is creeping into public spaces like schools. And so that led the way for us to have a more open conversation.
Okay.
But yeah, it is.
Props to you for doing that.
Thanks. But it is a fight all the time. Wow. To be the only one. Yeah.
Well, these teachers, in the video that I just played, as much as as much as Christians want to offer God as the solution, these teachers quit because when the rubber met the road, God was not enough. Right? They wanted better healthcare, better pay, something to make it worthwhile for them to keep doing what they were doing in the classroom. And there's a part that I think is coming up, but I'm not sure, so I don't want to waste people's time playing it if it's not going to play next. When the teachers complained that we're not getting what we need, the school district actually said to them, "Well, here are the things that we're willing to do for you. We're going to give you bumper stickers that will help you out in terms of, you get to say you're a Texas teacher. You get to put the 10 Commandments, or hold on, let me see if it plays it. I'm sorry, let me just see.
160 bills proposed this year that would have affected teachers. Most never made it to a vote. And in the end, not a single one of the task force recommendations became law.
So there was a task force recommendation of, Here's how to help these teachers stay in their job. All these recommendations, not one single recommendation from the task force was adopted by the Texas legislature. But guess what was? Check this out.
We asked this group about several measures the legislature did pass and whether they thought they'd make a difference, like more money for retired teachers.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
So, okay, more money for retired teachers. Would that make you guys stay in your job? Well, some of them, they raised their hands and said, possibly, yeah.
Well, like more money for retired teachers.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
The right to hang an "In God We Trust" sign in their class. And
a specialty license plate that says Texas Teachers that you pay $10.
So the Texas legislature said, rather than give you guys all the things you're asking for with health care and all that, we're going to give you the right to hang a "In God We Trust" sign in your classroom.
The fuck that going on? Where does that lift my morale? That's what I'm coming in to work for. That's my why. Who comes up with this shit? That's the part that also bothers me about, working in Texas and being part of a public school district at times. It's like, who comes up with this? And then they also I think it starts out as a decent idea, but then there's only this limited amount of people who are all like executive leaders or whatever who are at the table, and they haven't invited anybody else from any of the lower rungs of the ladder. And so after a while, they're like, yeah, we should give them more money for retirement. And then somebody's like, well, what if we gave them more money now? And then somebody else is like, well, there's some, there's these restrictions and that restrictions. And then the board has to vote on it. And they're like, okay, keep it for retirement. But how else can we raise morale? Like maybe they need some pride in identifying as a teacher. And it could be like Texas Strong, like after the floods and all that kind of stuff. So we could do something like that, like Texas Teacher. And then, like bumper stickers, like when it's like says, my kid is, an honors, whatever it is on the honor roll. Maybe we could have something like that. And then somebody else like, yeah, that actually wouldn't cost too much. How much, if we go through the printing, if we go through our printing department and marketing department, how much would that be? That could only be like maybe 97 cents per teacher. That's way better than raises. What else? I think that it winds up just getting watered down and down and down to where they're like, what did we come away with in this meeting? And then somebody's like in the footnotes says like, a little bit more retirement pay, a bumper sticker, and license plates that they need to pay for. But as long as you have
"In God We Trust" signs in the classrooms.
There.
Yeah. So go back to Pete Hegseth, right? Why did he mention the Bible is the one book we can trust what it says? Why did Ted Cruz there's something about the value of going back to this book that was actually dying that's coming back. And here's for anybody who's watched this far into the program. I thank you for watching this far into the program. Make sure you like and subscribe. I was saving this point because we talked about Juneteenth, right? Imagine if you were that enslaved African in Galveston, Texas, and the news finally comes that 2.5 years ago, a proclamation was given that you were now free. Imagine you thinking, damn, 2.5 years I've been here. I could have been off this fucking plantation and could have told my quote unquote master, fuck you, 2.5 years ago. Imagine the anger you would have, the righteous indignation you would have to know 2.5 years ago you could have been done with this shit. Yeah. Imagine you're a woman and you got raped a year ago by your slave master. 2.5 years ago, you could have been done with this motherfucker. So think about the enslaved person. You mentioned this in your comments earlier, the enslaver who knows that 2.5 years ago, these people were declared free. And you should have been let them go. You should have been figured out, I need to come up with some kind of sharecrop or some shit because they're not mine. I can't own them. I want you now, listener, viewer, I want you to transition all those principles to the Christian. We are like the U.S. Army. You and I, Crystal, we're like the U.S. Army coming to the Christian saying, yo, guess what? You ain't got to do this shit no more. You've been free. Like, you never had to do this shit. And now we got so many ways to show you, to prove to you that the God of the Bible is a non-entity. You can get him the fuck out of here. Like, he's gone. You're free. Yeah, you got to go through the stages of freedom, but you're free. That's who we are. That's who you and I are. We're the army coming in telling these people you're free. And to the pastors, we're telling them you can't hold these people anymore. But here's what I want people to think about, and I'd love to hear your comments on this, Crystal. In the same way that there were enslavers who were keeping people enslaved that they knew they had no right to, there are Christian religious leaders who know, oh shit, the Human Genome Project has proven the link between humans and the great apes. It's like evolution is true. So we at least got to get Genesis 1-3 the fuck out of here. The rest of the story, maybe we can be progressive Christians, or I don't know, but damn, we can't say that. The Christian leaders who know I should be freeing people from the chains of this bullshit, but you haven't done it for years. You are like the enslaver who has not let their slaves free.
Correct.
Talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. And when we think of it that way, this is kind of a little more prickly to talk about, but you know how much resistance we encounter with that and how deeply people will cling to what they know. And so we also have to imagine and hold space for our ancestors, the ones who did the same thing with slavery. They did not want to leave. This is all they knew. So you think that everybody would run out into the dirt road and throw their hands in the air and shit,
right.
You know, set fire to the crops or something. But there were some who were like, this person is better to me than I can ever be for myself. Because what am I going to do by myself? At least I have the protection of massa. You about to get lynched at any turn. Here, you don't. You don't. They can't come for you out here because we belong to him.
Yeah. Wow.
And he fights for his. So I'm staying. So there's that.
Yeah.
There's also the idea of letting people know how powerful they really are, because they've come through psychological training that says you're nothing. You're nothing without God. You're only clean because of Jesus. Otherwise, you're dirty. He, you know, purified you, cleansed you, made you white as snow. So without those things, you are, you know, dirty, cast aside, not unworthy. And he already showed you mercy. So how dare you spit in the face of or act ungrateful for how merciful and, you know, like generous he's been with you. He helps you wake up in the morning. Isn't that gift enough? You know, like that kind of weird shit. Like you have to just wake up and be like, thank you.
Yeah.
You know,
you don't want to spit in the face of your benefactor.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, it's hard to work them out of that sense of like wanting to cling to their benevolent overlord, you know. So it is hard. It's a psychological number for sure. And it's not always our work. It may be the work of licensed counselors, right? Who can help them work through that trauma.
Wow. Excellent.
But
Excellent.
all we can do is give them use the tools we have and make sure that the word is spread. Like we did our part. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
that's the part that we have to like settle with and be okay with, even as we watch them flounder, even as we watch their demise, even as we watch them thank God for breaking their leg, putting them in a car accident, giving them cancer, taking their children, killing their children, you know, like all these different things that they are going to praise him for in the midst of trials, right? So it's hard for them to know how to name freedom for themselves.
Jeez. You took it somewhere that I wasn't even intending to take it. The compassion for the person who's still enslaved to religion when they don't have to be. I still want to make this prickly for the enslaver, for the Christian apologist who you know this shit doesn't add up and you're still trying to find ways to connect the dots. You are the person still enslaving the people that you don't have any right to enslave. I have people who behind closed doors, I know Christian pastors who know this shit is not true. I will never name your name, especially if you're still wrestling with it yourself. I talk to very many people on a daily basis who know the shit is not true. And sometimes they're doing it. I don't know. Friends of mine, I'm not trying to put anybody on blast. I'm not trying to sub diss you. I do think that there are people who think I'm helping people and the religious language is the best way to do it. I also know some of you who you know that by putting yourself in this position of pastor to shepherd people, you're helping yourself out financially because you and your wife and your children's health care is paid for by the church. Your children's school tuition is paid for by the church. I know that is going on. So you can't just walk away. But just know it's a little weird to me. My unique Monique, she said, it doesn't profit them, talking about the Christian leaders, to set people free.
Right.
I know that for many of you, like the slave owners, your financial freedom is based on the religious slavery of the people you're shepherding.
Yes.
When really you should be working toward a way to set them free.
Yes. Yes. It is a matter of communal liberation. And they are not working toward that. I understand that just like freedom for people in Texas, like that for the enslaved people in Texas, that spiritual liberation doesn't come all at once either. I get it. Sometimes you know you're free or not free. I guess you know you're not free, but you don't yet have the language or resources to leave. So that's one. And when we think about where Christianity came from, it was handed to us on the plantation in chains. Juneteenth asks us the question, what else have we inherited that still keeps us bound?
Whoa. Go ahead. Okay.
Juneteenth reminds us that freedom is not a gift. Nobody can give it to you. Yes, in this case, the government said, yeah, you deserve it, but really it was never theirs to give and it was never theirs to take. It's not a gift. It's a fight. At least for us it is. I mean, like it's supposed to be a God-given right or whatever, but for us, it's a fight. Leaving Christianity is a fight too. It's a fight for your own mind, a fight for your own voice, a fight for your own sense of divinity.
For yourself.
For yourself. And
Jesus said, if you lose yourself, lose your life for my sake, you'll find it. So
exactly. So like for some of us, leaving Christianity was our personal emancipation proclamation. But like Juneteenth, the realization of freedom took time. I'm out, but yes. And we're still taking and making meaning from it. So like, I forgot her name, the unique one who's been commenting.
My unique Monique.
Yes, my unique
Yes.
Monique. She asked, is there a point where we reach, freedom or liberation, or is it ongoing? And it's definitely ongoing. It's a continual unlearning.
Yes.
And a continual fight for yourself and your freedom. So on Juneteenth, we remember those that came before us, stepping into the uncertainty of freedom, holding only their faith in themselves. And when I left Christianity, I did the same.
Yeah.
So no master, no middleman, right? Just me and the knowing that I am already whole.
Yeah. On that note, y'all, I thank you so much, Crystal, for coming through and sharing yourself, sharing your thoughts, your brilliance, your compassion, your humanity with humanity. So we're going to end it on that note, y'all. If you have any thoughts, throw it in the chat before we get out of here, or if not, drop it in the comments. Everybody who rocks with this channel, appreciate you all. All of the Patreon supporters, love you guys. I'll be back next week with more content. And this was great. There's so many revelations for me in this that I'm going to probably have certain tracks. Like I'm talking 3 or 4 episode series, several series off of things that we were able to just touch on in this. So thank you so much, Crystal. Any last words? Do you have any plans to do more speaking, more advocating, more vocalizing, a platform?
I am right now not clear on how to do that in a way that would go well with my time, because I know that I could start something up, but it's summertime. Okay. And that's what I've noticed over the last 10, 15 years. I'm like, wait, that's when I get into relationships. That's when I, start new projects. And then one dude told me in the middle of the school year, he was like, bring back summer, Crystal. And I was like, oh, so I don't want to be promising nothing. But I do love coming here. I love being a guest because, again, I think I told you in private, you got to clean up all this and put it out and figure out the things. But I don't have to do that. I just show up. And
hey, look, if that's all you're able to do, I will gladly, as often as you have ideas that you feel like, hey, you want to speak about I will gladly script up and find videos and just provide the platform for you to come and share. People love you. People love you sharing your mannerisms, you acting out your thoughts. And I love it. So for sure. All right, y'all. That's all for tonight. Let me see what my unique Monique says. Felt like she was preaching directly to me with that last part. I love it. Yeah. Hey, drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Much love, y'all. Peace. Happy Juneteenth.